Hello? Let's see if I remember how to do this. I hope everyone has had a good day and is ready to wind down. Sorry that I am starting a little late. I was all prepared and ready and right on time, and then I got distracted, and so I became late. Sorry about that. But I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Had some good times with family or friends or pets, and got to eat some good food. It's always fun. And I meant to do this book before, but migraines in my brain don't always get along very well, so it's a little post-Christmas holiday book. It is I can't promise this one will be spoiler free simply because of the nature of the book. Alright. If we are ready, let's go. As per usual, this is meant to entertain and inform, and I do not hold any of the rights for the works described. And this one is interesting in another way, and we will get into that in a bit. So the book in question is Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King. Which I have to keep double checking because the copy I have has a massive glare on it. By William Joyce and Laura Geringer. Geringer? Geringer is probably more correct. It was published by Athenaeum Books for Young Readers in 2011. It is part of a series. It is book one of the Guardians series. So, this is where we talk about how this book is a threefold problem, and by problem I mean delight. So, William Joyce wrote a picture book series called The Guardians of Childhood. He wrote the novel series, The Guardians, and then if you are familiar with the DreamWorks movie Rise of the Guardians, all of those take place in the same world with the same characters. Although, I will admit, while the novels and the picture books are very much the same characters, they don't quite match with the movie because the movie is set in modern times and the novels are not. Also, there are some really cool characters in the novels that just aren't in the movie. But so, there's that. Excuse me. This is the original cover for Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King. The illustrator is William Joyce, so I'm not going to talk about him on this page. We're going to talk about him on the author page. But you'll notice that the series is called The Guardians. If you hear if I say the Guardians of Childhood, that technically is the picture books, but I always forget that the picture books have a different title, and I just call all of the written bits the Guardians of Childhood. But that's technically not correct. There is an alternate cover that is just the face of Nick St. North, but I suspect William Joyce did that one as well, but I can't find definitive, so there's not an image for that one. But that one was published in 2018 by the same publisher. So about the authors, because we have two, William Joyce, who is also your illustrator, created Roly Poly Oly, which has since been turned into a animated series. He did character concepts for Toy Story and A Bug's Life. He wrote the Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lusmore, which is also an Academy Award-winning short film. He wrote the I believe it's a picture book, because I think I've read it. A Day with Wilbur Robinson, that was adapted by Disney into Meet the Robinsons. And then The Guardians of Childhood is the picture book series that's set in the same world as The Guardians, which is the novels, and Rise of the Guardians, which is the DreamWorks movie. The other author of this book is Laura Geringer, who wrote A Three Hat Day, which is an ALA notable book, Sign of the Quinn, which is a ALA best book, and the graphic novel series Mythmen, which has also been turned into a animated series, I believe. So both of these authors are old hat and well respected at writing children's books. I will admit, I am more familiar with William Joyce's work and his style of art. When I realized he did Roly Poly Oly, I was like, yes, of course he did, because that's exactly what like the Moonmen and Moonbots look like is Roly Poly Oly. He also worked on Epic, which is another one that I think is taken from The Leafmen, I think is the book that Epic is taken from. So what do you need to know about the book? It has multiple points of view. It's a reimagining of myth. It's an illustrated novel, and it is a fast read. Normally I talk about how fast the read is separately, but it is a children's book, and it is also the first book in the series, and in order to not spoil the whole series, because I can happily gush about the things in this book that make the whole series great. We're gonna stick to it's a fast read. So you have multiple main characters. It goes with the next slide, which is multiple points of view. But your main characters are Nicholas St. North. He's a bandit leader, who his whole thing is being a bandit. He was trained by the Cossacks, but didn't like being like straight up evil. But he's the most feared member of the band. His horse is terrifying. And he gets a dream and rides off, and takes his bandits with him. You have Catherine, who is an orphan who lives in Big Root. Big Root is the magical tree in Santolf Clausen. She is the only one who lives there. So there are many families and children who live in Santolf Clausen, but she is the only one who lives specifically in Big Root, because she has no other family, and Umbric adopted her, basically. Umbric is the wizard of Santolf Clausen. He is very old, very powerful, and very chill. As far as wizards go, I wish more wizards were like Umbric and less like Gandalf, but he is a big believer in belief, and that is very nice to see. He limits knowledge, but also doesn't at the same time. It's like, oh, here's this super evil knowledge, and he's like, yeah, maybe machines shouldn't have this, but also maybe you should have a bit more responsibility and think for yourself a bit, and he encourages that. So this book comes in multiple points of view. So from chapter to chapter, and to some lesser extent from paragraph to paragraph within the chapter, your viewpoint can change. And in addition to the three main characters of Nick, Catherine, and Umbric, other characters will get chapters or parts of chapters to themselves. These are things like Sar Lunoff, the character of Nightlight, who, to be fair, doesn't go by that name for 90% of the book. But it's really hard for me to not call him Nightlight because I've read the rest of the series and he's a reoccurring character. The Moonbeam, who is attached to Nightlight. and Pitch, who is Cosmostos Pitchner, also known as Pitch Black, aka the Nightmare King. If you've seen Rise of the Guardians, the evil dream sand dude that creates nightmares and is voiced by Jude Law, yeah, that's Pitch Black. He's not as scary as he should be in that movie, but he has all the vibes. They all have at least one chapter from their perspective. Excuse me. If you don't like multiple points of view in a book, this is not the series for you. Because this doesn't change in the later books. You always have multiple viewpoints going on. Another thing... Oh, well, we'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that in a second, because that's part of another. So it is a reimagining of myth. So first of all, this is the first book in the novel series. It sets your framework for your series. So this book specifically reimagines the Man in the Moon and Santa Claus, and the things around it. Things like the North Pole, things like the reindeer, things like the Yeti. Those all get reimagined in this book. Nicholas St. North, unsurprisingly, will become Santa Claus. I don't know how much of a spoiler that is. This is why I said that this discussion would be spoilery, but I am trying not to do the reveal of, hey, you meet characters in this book who turn into XYZ later. You do, but I'm not telling you who they become. It is a great frame-setting book because it doesn't feel like a frame-setting book. It feels like it's not the whole story, but it feels like it tells a complete story, and then the threads that it leaves hanging are tantalizing, but not, like, bothersome. So, yeah. Excuse me. Pitch is the boogeyman. That's the other thing. They do, I believe, call him that in this. And so you have the boogeyman versus the Man in the Moon. And, like, the power of fear versus the power of not fear. It's not super clear in this book. As the series goes on, it becomes more clear what the Man in the Moon and the Guardians are standing for. But in this book, it's not really fear versus love. It's fear versus not fear. Fear versus bravery, in a lot of ways. This is an illustrated novel. I call it this, and then I went and looked up to make sure that I wasn't, like, taking a different definition. And no, this is really the best way to put it. Some of these pages are straight up illustrations. There's no words, there's just like a 2-page spread of illustrations, or the only words are telling you what it is. Hey, this is a page full of fearlings. Hey, this is a page full of moonbots. Others have words that, like, wrap around the images. Like, there's a page that has Nightlight on it, and Nightlight is a skinny little boy with a big old spear, and the words wrap around him, and fit neatly around him. Or there's, like, fearlings creeping up the sides of the page. And then there's an entire section that is specifically telling... I don't know how to explain it properly. It's telling the past. It's telling a story of the past. It's your flashback, basically. And it is the pages are black and the text is white and the illustrations are done in the negative, so they're all done in white because everything around them is black, white and gray. The art style is very distinct. And things, if you're not sure what they are, they almost always have a little blurb in an italicized font that tells you exactly what you're looking at. Whether it's a fearling or the lunar llamas or like yetis, it will tell you what you're looking at. So that is how that one works. I don't think this isn't the first illustrated novel I've read, but it's really hard for me to think of others. I will get to a page where I have others listed, because I don't think about books that way until I see them, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's part of why I liked this book so much, is because it does something different. I am a sucker for books that do something different. I want to say the name of the book is The Ruby Key, and all of its text is purple. Let me make sure that I'm talking about the correct book. There is a book where all of the text is done in purple instead of black. Hang on. Yes, it is The Ruby Key. I did remember that correctly. And it's one of those things that I greatly enjoy that book. I will sometimes buy special editions of books because they have prettier covers, or they do something different with the pages, or they've got reversible covers, or they're in the subscription box I buy. And I love the ones that do stuff with the pages. Give me text that isn't black and white. Or in this case, it gives you pages that are black and text that is white. It's something different. And then this is a fast read. Despite the fact that it has a flipping point of view, the book doesn't sit there and like spin out scenes any further than they need to be. It's always moving forward. The font is fairly large, which is what I was going to mention earlier. The font is fairly large. Now, I have a older version, because I had to buy the books separately. And by that I mean I have a box set for the first 3, and then I had to buy books 4 and 5 separately. But Nick St. North is really nice. I just don't know if the font size is different in any of the newer versions, but this one is a really nice size. It makes it for an easy read, even with the stylistic places. The normal font is not super fancy, but when it's wrapping around things, images, it can get that way. So recommendations, so reimaginings. I decided to kind of put what these are reimaginings of. So the first one is Eth by Edith Patel. It is a reimagining of East of the Sun and West of the Moon. If you're kind of wondering, oh, well, what's that about? Well, it's like one part Beauty and the Beast and one part Eros and Psyche with bears. And yes, I know Beauty and the Beast and Eros and Psyche are very similar, but it's a man gives his daughter to a bear prince monster thing. The bear has a palace, marries the girl, and basically at night transforms into a man. That's your myth. East is a retelling. So, well, it's not really a retelling. It's a retelling and a reimagining. There's more to it than that. American Gods by Neil Gaiman is a reimagining of mythology. I said just all of it because you've got Greek, Norse, Egyptian. You've got the question of what makes a god in the first place, because you have the new gods and American Gods that are things like the internet. Um, and Gaiman deals very well with, oh, well, the gods have to change as the times change, and as the peoples change, and as the offerings change, but at the same time, when you're a god that demands blood, how do you deal with not getting blood? So that is American Gods. It is very much for adults. It is quite the slog, even if you enjoy myths, because depending on the chapter, there are times where the main character is very, 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 very boring. And there are times I want nothing to do with him, but I'm like, I like all of the things that are happening around you, I just don't like you. And it's not like that's unique. There are other books that do that, but American Gods is on the Tolkien end of reading slogs. The Hogfather by Terry Pratchett is a reimagining of things like Christmas and the Tooth Fairy and others. You will notice that these are similar things to what the reimaginings of the Guardian series is, because the Guardians is Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, the Sandman, and Jack Frost. So if you've seen Rise of the Guardians, your 5 main characters, that's who your Guardians are. The Hogfather is mostly about the Hogfather, who is the Father Christmas-ish character, and the Tooth Fairy, but you also have, like, the personification of death, and a couple of other really fun characters that I don't want to spoil. It is wonderful and satire, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, although I firmly believe that everyone should at least give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. There is a movie version of it. If books are not 100% your jam, or if you're like, man, that sounds tedious, there's a fairly long made-for-TV adaptation that's really enjoyable. And then my shot in the dark here is The Ballad of Sir Dinadan by Gerald Morris. This is book 5 of the Squire's Tales. It is a retelling of Arthurian and Arthurian adjacent legends. The reason I specify Arthurian adjacent is I'm pretty sure this is the book that isn't actually about the Arthurian legends. It's about legends that are kind of around it, but not directly tied to King Arthur. But Sir Dinadan is a lot of fun. He is the knight that doesn't really want to be a knight, he wants to be a bard. So if you want to read a book about a bard that's kind of also a knight, this is the one for you. All of these books do a great job at incorporating elements of the quote-unquote real world of Arthurian legend along with the fairy realm. So you've got that duology, you've got good and evil, but you've also got, like, people being people, which is a huge strength in the series. Because you will have people calling other people out for being dumb. I like the whole series, but if we're looking strictly at reimaginings, this is the easiest one to point to as a reimagining. And then for illustrated novels, so these are kind of caveats next to 3 of the 4 of these. So The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick is the most illustrated novel version of all of these. It is heavy in the illustration and lighter in the words. This is a book that if you pick it up, it is several inches thick because it is primarily illustrations. It is a story told with pictures and words, which is kind of the whole point of an illustrated novel. Coraline by Neil Gaiman is closer to Nick St. North in that it has fewer illustrations, but it is still a story told with both. You could just read it with no pictures whatsoever, like that's not impossible, and if you listen to an audiobook version, clearly that's what you're getting, but the pictures enhance it. Also, it's more than just the chapter face pictures. They're within the chapters themselves. So unlike like the early printings of the Harry Potter books, where the pictures were mostly the chapter pages, Coraline it's incorporated in. The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster. First of all, is a fantastic book that should absolutely be read, and second of all, is again more like Coraline, where it has some illustrations throughout that aid you, especially because this is a book about wordplay and math, but especially about wordplay. So there's a watchdog, and if you don't see the picture of him, you don't quite understand just how much he is in fact a pocket watch shaped with a dog shaped around it, and like he is a dog with a watch and like has the little windy bit, and yeah, it's great. And then you have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Excuse me. Particularly the old ones that had the illustrations. Once again, illustrated novels are the ones that have the illustrations that add to, enhance, or especially in the case of Hugo Cabret, are necessary to tell the story. These are the illustrations that are kind of scary, but really good. The Alice ones. I'm sure there are other versions. I typically don't go looking for different iterations of Alice. If I'm going to go find it, it's going to be the old illustrations that are kind of a little bit scary. But yeah. So this is a children's book. It does have 4 other books in the series. I want to say it's the Easter Bunny and then the Tooth Fairy, then Sandman, and then Jack. I know Jack Frost is last, and Sandman is 4th, because those aren't in the box. All of them are very fun. All of them are about the individual joining or becoming what they are. Because, as you'll notice, I said Nick St. North is a bandit. He doesn't, even by the end of this book, he doesn't really become Santa Claus in the way we think of Santa Claus. The North Pole is not established. There are things that just don't happen in this that you very much get the feeling happen off screen later, and that's fine. Sometimes when you've got establishing shots, you don't need everything else. So yes, that is how that one goes. Oh. Sorry, I've been very sneezy all day, which has led to sniffles and nonsense. So yes, this is a series that is very dear to my heart. I very much like it. It exists in multiple forms of media, which is always fun, especially because it exists in multiple forms that are all supported by the author. It's not like he designed one of them and the others are made without his permission. He was a part of all of them. Although I think Pitch was designed for the movie. Hang on. Because I think, hang on. Yeah. Swordsman, Fearlings. Text and illustration. Yeah. Rise of the Guardians and the Pitch character are used with permission. Yeah, that's what I thought. Pitch is a little different. But Pitch shows up in all of them. Because, I mean, he's the boogeyman. Also, Rise of the Guardians is one of the... Excuse me. One of those movies that is both a Christmas movie and an Easter movie because bunny. In the same way that Nightmare is a Christmas and Halloween, and The Hogfather is just wonderful year round, but is mostly a Christmas movie. But yeah. I do find it funny that I wound up recommending 2 different Neil Gaiman books. At some point, we're just gonna have to do a bunch of Neil Gaiman books at once. We're just gonna have to break out Stardust and Coraline and get all of them together. I might have Delight's birthday party, but I don't actually remember if he wrote that one or if it's just using his characters. Now I have to check that. I'm so sorry. I am one of those people who, if I think about a thing for too long and I don't check it and make sure that it is what I think it is. Delight's birthday party. Is it Delirium's birthday party? I thought it was Delight. Neil Gaiman? Not How to Talk to Girls at Parties. Where is Delight? No? Okay, is it Delirium? I'm very confused. Delirium? Oh, it is Delirium. Okay, hang on. It's not actually by... It's not actually by Neil Gaiman. It is by Jill Thompson. But it is using his characters. Also, I kind of love it when the authors do that, when they are chill with other people playing in their sandbox and like endorse other people playing in their sandbox. It doesn't happen super often. And usually when it does, it's like a big company thing. For example, Drizzt Do'Urden is written in the Forgotten Realms, and Baldur's Gate takes place in the Forgotten Realms, all 3 games, which means that Drizzt can either show up or be referenced in any of them because he has been written into that realm, because Wizards allowed Salvatore to play in their sandbox, and by that token, his character becomes part of the sandbox and can then be in other people's things. Drizzt and Gwen, that entire, like, delightful cast of characters, and also Wolfgar, who is less delightful. But yes, I think I bought a couple of the children's books because I like the concept of, like, baby Endless running around. it's just adorable to me. I love Delirium, and I love Death, and I love Dream, and the concept of, like, kid versions of them running around is just so cute. Well, and to be fair, I like reimaginings for the same reason I like the fact that other people are allowed to play with the Endless with permission. And that is, I like seeing what can be done. It's why I don't mind when you've got 15,000 different versions of Cinderella, because everybody's take is a little different, and I like seeing what's done with it. It's why, both the Ever After High books and the School of Good and Evil books, which have overlap for some real obvious reasons, I enjoy both of them because they're different. Like, it's the same concept. It is the children and or reincarnations of the traditional fairy tales going to modern day high school, basically, to be what they're destined to be. And whether they agree with it or disagree, what happens. But they're done in such a different way that they can exist simultaneously and both be good. It's why things like Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and, like, the Lockwood and Company series can all exist. Is there overlap between those 3? Absolutely. Absolutely. Iron and salt and fighting ghosts and dealing with spooky ooky things and, like, vampires and or demons and or, like, having to do your research to take things out. Like, these things cross the supernatural monster hunting genre. You know what else they share stuff with? Scooby-Doo. So, like, all of these things can exist with the same basic premise. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Does that mean I always want things to exist like that? No, not always. Sometimes I would like something new. There's a reason I'm not a fan of the Sword of Shannara series. If you're unaware, the first book is very unironically similar to Lord of the Rings. Like, a lot. And this is coming from someone who enjoys R.A. Salvatore, which also is not dissimilar from Lord of the Rings. The difference is one of them flat up says, hey, I was inspired by Tolkien when I wrote this, and the other one doesn't. It's why I will always look a little sideways at the Aragon series. I didn't get past the second book because the first book annoyed me. The second book made me literally frustrated. And I'm like, I don't need to read the rest of the series. I know what happens. I've read better versions of this story elsewhere. And I've been told that, oh no, it changes, it gets better, give it another shot. If I have to read Aragon again, I'm not giving it another shot. Like, Aragon is not on my definitive list of I will never read it again, but I have no interest in reading it again. It's kind of like the Hunger Games for me. I've read it. I have no interest in rereading it. Please don't make me. But again, that is also not on my list of books I will never reread. That is currently a 2-book list. I think it's just the 2. I don't think Silver on the Tree is on that list. I think Silver on the Tree is boring, if I'm remembering it correctly, but it doesn't make the list of I'm not rereading you. Oh no, hang on. I have started dropping. Hello? Oh no. That's not good. How jittery am I right now? Let me check. It says it's still excellent. I don't look super jittery, I don't think. It's hard to tell sometimes. If you ever see me looking like weirdly down and freezing, that is me checking on my stream elsewhere. Oh, that is concerning. OBS is unhappy and rapidly dropping frames. Well, I haven't made it to an hour. And I really don't want to bow out, but I also don't know if me becoming a clunky slideshow is going to be good. Let's see. Oh. I have officially dropped too low. Okay. I am going to go ahead and call it here. Because clearly my thing is confused. I will see you next time for another book. It will probably not be another children's book. Hopefully I will be doing another YA. But I hope you all have a good night. Sorry this couldn't go longer, but I am, my computer's having problems. Good night.